Hi, welcome to Breathwork Basics. My name is Wesley, and I'm going to ask you to join me for the next couple hundred breaths as we explore how your breath works and how you can use it to control your physical and mental well-being. So before we taint this with any directions, any talk on breath, I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable spot, sitting or standing, and if it's safe for you to do so, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and just observe your breath. So just in and out as you normally breathe. Don't try and change anything. Just want you to notice your breath. So as you're doing this, notice, are you breathing in and out through your nose, through your mouth, maybe in through your nose, out through your mouth? And what's moving in your body? Is your chest expanding and contracting? Are your shoulders moving? What about your belly? And would you describe your breath as shallow, deep, somewhere in between? A couple more breaths here. All right, open your eyes and let's explore that a little bit. So the average person takes roughly 20,000 breaths per day. And I would suggest that most people probably pay attention to a grand total of 0 of those. And your breath is very powerful in terms of your physical, mental state, and you do have some control over it. But your body's natural default is to do whatever it needs to do to keep you alive. So if you're resting, your breath will typically be shallower. If you're exerting yourself, you may be breathing faster, deeper, trying to get more oxygen in. If you're sleeping, your breath is very quiet and slow pace. And all these things change how your breath is working in your body. So for this discussion, I want to just focus on the basics of breath, and in future discussions we'll work on how you might change your breath, manipulate your breath, use your breath to change the outcome, change your mental state, change your physical state. So for now, let's just talk about basics. So your body's designed to breathe in and out through the nose, and there's really 3 good reasons for that. First of all, those annoying little nose hairs and mucus in your nose serve a purpose. They capture a lot of the particles in the air, and they prevent them from getting into your lungs. So the air that's going through your nose, by the time it gets to your lungs, is just a little more pure than what's going on in the atmosphere. So that just takes some of the pressure off your lungs, and it gives them a better fuel to use for getting oxygen into your bloodstream. Second reason, you'll notice when you breathe through your nose versus breathing through your mouth, there's a slight restriction there. And that restriction forces your respiratory system to work a little harder than it would just breathing in through your mouth. So same as resistance training for your body. If you're working your muscles, they get stronger. If you're not working them, they atrophy, and eventually they become weak enough to notice. So you probably wouldn't notice the difference now if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s. But a strong respiratory system when you're in your 80s and 90s makes a difference going up and down the stairs. So breathing in and out through your nose is going to force those muscles to work a little harder and just keep them a little stronger. So important consideration there. The other thing that happens is through your nose, there's a series of canals, channels, however you want to describe it. the air doesn't go directly through your nose into your lungs the same as it does through your mouth and your throat. The air is it's flowing through your nasal passages, and that's changing the temperature of the air. So when the air hits your lungs, it's closer to your body temperature than the ambient temperature. So if you've ever gone outside on a particularly cold day and taken a big gasp in through your mouth, you may have noticed a coughing or a choking sensation. And that's because your lungs say, whoa, what is this? Your lungs aren't designed to work with air that's at extreme temperatures. So again, breathing through your nose just makes that air more accessible to your lungs when it hits there. So three basic reasons for considering, at least, breathing through your nose and making that a habit. So I'm going to ask you this time, we'll go through the same exercise we did at the start. So I'm going to ask you to get comfortable, and I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if that's an option for you. And I'm going to ask you to start breathing normally. And now, if you're not already doing it, close your mouth and see if you can breathe in and out through your nose. So now I'm going to ask you to deepen that breath a little bit. So when you inhale, try and inhale to a count of 3. And when you exhale, exhale to a count of 3. So let's try a few breaths at the 3 count, your own pace. So let's just do one more. And open your eyes. So did you notice any difference? You may not, because we're in a resting state. You're not likely in an extreme environment where you're dealing with smoke or dust. But anyway, just get used to that sensation of breathing through your nose. And when you think about it throughout the day, you're driving, you're waiting in line somewhere, you're doing whatever, just try and breathe through your nose. Make it a practice, make it a habit, and you'll find eventually that breathing through your nose has some benefits. So the other thing I want to introduce is a little bit of breath control. And this is important for calming your nervous system, calming your anxiety, maybe helping you react better in a state of urgency, in a state where you're overwhelmed, frightened, angry. And that is just to add a pause in your breath cycle. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in, pause, just a noticeable pause, not a long pause. Then we're going to breathe out, pause, breathe in, pause. So I'm going to we'll start with a simple pause, and then I'll walk you through a little bit more intense pattern, and we'll just kind of analyze how that feels in your body. So again, if you're comfortable, close your eyes, and let's just start with an inhale to a count of 3, pause, exhale to a count of 3, pause, inhale to a count of 3, pause, and just keep that up at your own pace for a couple more breaths. Now the next time you come to an inhale, let's inhale to a count of 3, pause to a count of 3, exhale to a count of 3, pause for 3, and inhale again for 3. And we'll go on that cycle. So 3, 3, 3, and 3. This is called box breathing. So just count your breaths. In, 2, 3, pause, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, pause, 2, 3, in, 2, 3, pause, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, pause, 2, 3. Continue on for about 3 or 4 breaths, just at your own pace. Now, can you increase that to 4 count? So 4 in, 4 pause, 4 out, 4 pause. Try it at 4. Yeah, a couple more rounds there. All right. Open your eyes and let's revisit that experience a little bit. So what you probably noticed is when you got to the 4 count, your chest noticeably expanded more because you needed that extra capacity. And when you exhaled longer for a count of 4, you emptied more of the air out of your system. And then when you inhaled again, more. So you're working the capacity of your system. So it's not only the strength of the muscles, it's the capacity of the system that's going to pay dividends in the long run. So it's not uncommon for somebody that does breath work to increase that count to 8, 10, 12 even. And it's just about exercising that whole respiratory system so that when you are at rest, your restful breathing is that much easier. So the other thing this does is, I'll bet you noticed that as you're counting your breath, you're not thinking about what's for dinner. You're not thinking about the party on Friday. You're just focusing on your breath. And that goes a long way to calming your monkey mind down. Your mind doesn't have much of an attention span. So when you can divert it from what it was ruminating about and make it think about something else for a few seconds, often what happens is when you're done, it doesn't go back to that previous problem. It moves on to the next thing, and it can just lower the intensity of your emotions, your anxiety. It's just a great exercise. If you're feeling stressed, stop. If you can close your eyes, great. If you can't, that's fine. It works eyes closed, eyes open, and just start counting your breath. And what you'll find is when you're counting your breath, you're not doing something else. You're just counting your breath. So give it a try. We'll leave it at that for today. That's just an introduction to nasal breathing versus mouth breathing and a little bit of breath control. Practice those things, and just whenever you get time, you don't need 20 minutes, you don't need half an hour. If it's 5 minutes while you're standing in line somewhere or waiting at a stoplight, don't close your eyes there. Go ahead and try it and just get used to that nasal breathing and that controlled breath. So let's leave it at that. And next time around, we'll do a little bit more of some exercises to try and incorporate your breath with some body movement. So thank you for joining. Enjoy your day.